Welcome to episode 124, first day of May, and we are ready to roll. I'm Erin Davis.
I'm Lisa Brandt, and how are you, Ms. Davis, after your marathon at an election polling station? Oh, my goodness. I have to tell you, there was a part of me that almost wanted to say don't do it because it was going to be such a long day. But I'm so glad you did.
I am too, because there's all kinds of stories that have come out of this, and I've heard from Facebook that a lot of our listeners, a lot of our peeps have done the Election Canada's duty. And we'll get to all of that. But you know what other duty I was supposed to be starting today?
What?
Jury duty.
Oh, right.
This was the day. Yeah.
And what happened with that? Was it canceled or you just weren't chosen? Or
no, it turns out there were no more crimes in the Greater Victoria area.
Isn't that fantastic? Oh, my goodness. And we can thank Mark Carney for that, I guess, right? Oh, my God.
Yeah, not yet. No, actually, I was Easter weekend with the kids, and I opened my email, and it said, you are no longer needed. Now, usually a rejection letter kind of hurts a little bit, but this one had me jumping off the couch.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Everybody wants justice done, but nobody wants to be in a jury, and I can't blame them, you know?
This is the perfect time in life for jury duty, and I think a lot of us listening would agree. You can say no thanks, I'm over 65, which we are not. But it's just like, okay, I can move my schedule around. The last time I got called, were you ever called, Lisa?
I was notified that I was supposed to go, and then I was told about a year and a half later that I missed jury selection that I was told about, and I was never told. So The first time I was let off, and the second time it didn't even happen. But that was in that time when we were moving. We went from London to Wallaceburg, then to Southwold, and then to Port Stanley. And somewhere in there it all got lost. So I would have done it, but I never did it.
The time I got called in Toronto was maybe not even 10 years ago. But I had to go to the courthouse for like 9:30, which was right after the morning show ended at 9. And so all I was picturing was, oh my gosh, I've got to do the radio show and then go and sit in a courtroom for 7 or 8 hours a day. How long can I physically last doing this? So I did get up on the stand and was asked questions, and I didn't end up being chosen. And again, good rejection. There's always good rejection in life, you know.
There certainly is. Did I ever tell you about the time the guy I worked with at what used to be Mix 99.9 did jury duty?
No.
So he was off for 2.5 weeks or something for jury duty. And then finally, a reporter went to court to see another case and found out that the first case had been thrown out. And this guy was lying the whole time, saying that he was in jury duty and he wasn't. And I mean, we had a news department. How did he think he was going to get away with that? Yeah, so he was let go.
Oh my gosh, that is so stupid.
I know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So being in the polling station, you texted me every once in a while, and it wasn't like serving on a jury. It was good.
It was, to me, amazing. Everybody had their little jobs to do. I was kind of lowest on the roster at information officer. And basically what my job was to greet people. First, you get there at 6 a.m., set up all the signs, all the big yellow vote signs and all the signs off the highway and all of the stickers and the wall posters that say, here's the ID you need and all that. So my job was, hello, bonjour, are you here to vote? Of course they are. They're not checking on their kids in the high school, which is where it was held. And I did that, but there were other people doing that. So basically in the gym, there were 6 different voting stations for different areas, all set up. It was a high school gym with plastic sheeting on the flooring that people were tripping on, and we were busy taping down because they didn't want people stepping on their precious hardwood court, which of course. So I did that all day, and I was walking around to all the different polling stations, and at the top of each hour, I had to collect their paperwork, tear them off, put each sheet into different folders, which I loved because I'm an organization geek.
Right, me too. I was getting excited when you were describing it.
It was great.
Yeah.
So it was really slow and steady for the day because our riding had the second highest advanced polling turnout behind Bruce Fanjoy in the Carleton riding. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yes. So we were expecting kind of a lighter turnout, and that's what we got. But things kind of got exciting when this happened. Yes, that is a fire alarm. Yep. So we all kind of freeze in our places because this is not your usual high school fire alarm. First off, it wasn't a drill, Lisa. It wasn't planned. Somebody pulled it at about, I guess I'm going to say 1:15 or so. And so over the din of that awful ringing, the head guy, the senior reporting officer, is yelling instructions. Seal all the boxes. Take any papers you have that have your writing on them. I'm gathering up the folders, putting them under my raincoat, because of course it's raining. Everybody else is carrying their sealed ballot box. We have official stickers that have to go over that slot in the top. So nobody in the parking lot can, just dump a bunch of ballots in or whatever could happen.
Right.
And then we were out for about 20 minutes, and some people who were in line to vote went home. Some came back later. I hope they all did. And in the end, we never found out why there was an alarm. But of course, you heard later that in Windsor, there was an actual fire in a polling station, right?
Yeah, there was. So how did it run as far as you felt? Was it smooth?
It was extremely smooth.
The reason I ask is because I had told you about my friend who had gone for training and that a whole bunch of people quit that moment. And a few more dropped out the next day, and that they might be looking for people really late, close to the election. And isn't that when you reached out? Was it after that?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they need somebody here. I thought our area is all a bunch of young seniors. I'm not a young senior. I'm a queenager.
Right.
But I thought, okay, well, maybe I'm needed. And sure enough, the next day after I signed up at Elections Canada, they called me and said, can you come for training this afternoon for 3.5 hours? I think what might have scared your friend and a lot of people was the time commitment.
No, you were there 16 hours, right?
Yeah, and 3.5 on the Friday, yes.
Right. No, that didn't scare her at all. What scared her was going in and no one talking about anything practical. The person from Elections Canada at her polling station handed out all these thick binders and just said, read these.
Oh, no.
And she's like, well, are we going to run through a scenario like when somebody comes in, what they do and everything? And the woman's waving her hand and going, no. Read these, you'll get everything. I mean, she did it, and she was the supervisor.
Wow.
So she wasn't scared off, but a lot of other people were because they were like, we were there 3.5 hours and we have no idea what we're supposed to do. So they were really upset and they had to find other people right away. And so that was the issue. It wasn't the time commitment. It was she felt poor training. But you got good training.
We had excellent training. And the teacher was a woman named Patty, who was about my age. It was interesting, the people who were there that day for the training, because a lot of them looked like they were just finishing high school and just needed the money. And they never answered a question. They didn't communicate. They were just really insular. And there was maybe one other guy my age and a couple in their 40s who just wanted to do it. And, at $20 an hour, it's not terrible money, but it's more that you're doing something. So, no, we had great training, and we had a terrific senior reporting officer who, whenever we had questions, was right there. Now, the confusing or intricate part comes when the polls close, which in our case was 7 p.m., okay? We were open 7 till 7. We were there at 6 a.m. for all the setup and everything. So 7 o'clock, right on the nose, someone is at the door making sure no one gets through, okay? And then we have an official, like a scrutineer guy who came from one of the parties to watch us count and everything. And it took so long to get to the counting. This is why you go, why haven't we got the results? Well, for one thing, it's paper ballots. Thank God it's paper ballots because they're not hackable.
Yeah.
For another thing, you have to get all of the paperwork and all of the binders and all of the folders all put just so. And there is a very, very intricate handbook that tells you, okay, here's what you do with file number EO30111. It's very carefully laid out, and you have to follow every single step. So we finally got to counting, Lisa, at about 8:30. And it was a long time of just sitting around and going, okay, what is happening? Because I wasn't involved in any of that extra paperwork. But then we sat down, and I sat next to a young woman named Anya. And we officially cut open the box, and she would pull out a ballot, hold it up like she's holding up the time card at a wrestling match, and say, Elizabeth May, and I write down tick Elizabeth May. And then we put them in their corresponding little piles. And when all the piles are done and my little tick sheet is done, we hand count twice each pile of ballots, make sure it's the same number as on my tick sheet. Okay, good, fine. And then those ballots are put into envelopes. They are sealed and into more sealed envelopes. And it's very intricate and very careful, but it's very honest and almost foolproof. It was amazing to take part in.
It's so nice to see that you have confidence in the system after being in the middle of it like that. That's just wonderful.
Oh, I do. Well, can I tell you about a couple of fringy people I encountered?
Please do. I love it.
One in person, and the other one was when we were counting the ballots. And Anya pointed to a couple of them, and she said, these ones for the Conservative, look at how they're marked. And they're like they were stabbing it with their pen in a fist with an X. Like, I am so voting Conservative. You know, their anger was palpable, or they were making sure that that conspiracy theory that something could be erased, even ink, could not come true, not on my ballot, which, of course, was ridiculous. We offered pens to everybody. Most people used pens. Yeah. It's no big deal, bro. Nobody's stealing your election.
Yeah, that whole pen-pencil thing is just ridiculous. I mean, oh, my goodness.
Is.
Okay, and what's the other thing? What other people did you see?
Okay, so this woman walks in about halfway through the afternoon, and, you know, I'm a people watcher. I'm there to watch people, and that's part of my job. And she's wearing a ball cap with gold lettering that says, "Make Canada Great Again." Now, we were told in instructions on Thursday, nobody gets in with any logo wear. If you happen to be wearing a red T-shirt or a blue coat, we're not going to tackle you to the ground or say, here, put on this smock. It's a matter of logo wear. So I'm listening in very carefully because I knew I'd want to talk about it, as the senior elections officer had walked her into the room where obviously out in the hallway before she even got in, she was told she had to cover that hat, which she did with sunglasses. But obviously I could read it, and I'm looking out for stuff like that. So he's chatting with her in line, and she said, "Oh, yeah, I know. You got to be woke. And if I'd known this, I would have worn my whole outfit, you know, my pants and my shirt and the whole thing." And she just looked like she was itching for a scene, you know. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm with you. I hate this woke stuff too," which I found out later was true. Guy refused to wear a mask during COVID and stuff. But anyway, so they were on the same page, and he was able to talk her down. But that was the only incident in our little experience where somebody came in and tried to make a scene.
There was a person ahead of us when we lined up at the advance polls. It was quite busy. And there was a guy ahead of us, and you mentioned that your job, and it was this guy's job, to say bonjour, hello, because we have two official languages.
Right.
So this guy said, bonjour, good morning, he said. And the guy turned to him and he goes, "I thought we lived in Canada. What are you saying?"
Oh, for jeez.
And I just looked at Derek and just shook my head, and I thought, very mildly, though I wasn't going to make a big deal, I live in a very conservative area. Mm-hmm. They elected a conservative again, despite the provincial government throwing him off the ballot once it was discovered he had some things in his past. By the time they came out in the federal election, it was too late to replace him. So anyway, he's in. However, with Paul Revere not getting his seat, he may be gone. So I don't want to make a scene either, because I'm totally outnumbered here. So that's the other thing, right?
I think we can hope that Canada is going to see a return to more centrist conservative politics.
And liberal.
Yes.
And liberal. Let's say that too, right? You know, with Carney being more of a small L to the right liberal, I think that might be a better thing for the country. I do. No offense, Justin.
Yeah, and I truly think that he is also a small C conservative, that in any other time, other than this reform marriage and move to the right, Mark Carney would have been a great conservative candidate. So let's hope for some kind of unity. Who knows what's going to happen with the block and all of that stuff, but it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, I was supposed to be volunteering. I was on a list to drive people to the polls. Mm-hmm. So was my friend Patricia, and she texted me and said, "Have you heard from anybody yet?" All day, I never got called once. And she took one couple.
Wow.
So there wasn't much call for what we offered, but we were there. We were ready to do it. It just didn't really happen.
Well, let's just hope we're not going to have an election again soon. Everybody gets a break. And
please.
Although I can use the exercise, I did get 20,000 steps. So that was
oh my goodness.
That was my big day. Yeah, and no aches or pains or anything in the aftermath. So I'm just really, really grateful for that. But I did take my envy pillow in case I did get a chance to sit down. And I didn't.
Oh, yes.
Because I offered it to a woman who was sitting in one of those plastic chairs and had chronic back pain. And I said, "Here, sit on this." And she was so grateful. So envy pillow comes through again. Thanks, Kathy and Kim.
That's fantastic. It's so good for so many things. And one of the highlights they had in one of the recent emails was about how much inflammation, of course, we keep hearing about this, leads to everything from heart disease and autoimmune stuff. And some scientists and doctors say even cancer. So when you use an envy pillow, we're not saying it's going to stop you from getting anything, but it's certainly going to work on your inflammation with the infusion of genuine copper. They have it in their pillows, masks, and sheets, and it dramatically reduces inflammatory reactions. They have science-based evidence about this on their website, so check it out.
Yes, go to envypillow.com, use the code GF, and get 10% off. Hey, also for your information on inflammation, we might as well tell you this story too. My sister Leslie, who just had a knee replacement, and her knees were so shot from riding horses in her teens, having a horse fall on her and do all kinds of damage and stuff. She's had bad knees her whole life. And my brother-in-law, I didn't even know this, but for Leslie's 60th birthday last month, he gave her a bottle of Sierra Sil curcumin, the yellow label Sierra Sil.
Yeah.
So when people are giving it as a gift for their pain in the knee sister-in-law, that's something that he swears by.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really all in our family, and Rob uses it too. So try it out. Try Sierra Sil, and you get a guarantee, and it will help, especially with the knees. It's a patented process, and we believe in it.
We certainly do. And you know that big hill in Port Stanley that I avoid like the plague? Yep. I've been coming up it lately. I've been doing it because the joints don't hurt. I can't do anything about getting out of breath, but I'm working on it. So that's thanks to Sierra Sil as well. Do visit the website sierrasil.com and use the code GF for 14% off your purchase there.
You know what I missed on Election Day was music in the gym. Don't you find that when you're working, music just helps? And I know why you couldn't. I mean, even if it was all CanCon, we could, it could be Corey Hart and Tragically Hip and Gordon Lightfoot. But no, it's so hard for a lot of seniors and stuff to hear the instructions and everything. But there was... Lisa, we had a 100-year-old voter. We had a 100-year-old voter.
That's awesome.
He came in on walking sticks, which are not to be confused with stilts. That really would have been something. But he had these walking sticks. His hearing was amazing. I was overly loud to him because I expected him to be hard of hearing. He heard everything, and oh my gosh, it was such an honor to help him vote. And I asked, do you remember the first prime minister you voted for? And I said, if it's John A. Macdonald, I'm not going to believe you. But anyway, talking about music and why it wouldn't work in an election place. But I did have songs going through my head.
Well, of course, you get an earworm. And okay, when I went on this medication, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I went on this medication and the doctor said to me, it forces music to get stuck in your head more easily. And I said, you're probably on crack. But it really does. So I get earworms all the time. And I remember my mom saying, earworm, ooh, don't say that again. That's disgusting. But that's basically what it is. It's involuntary music. in your head that you can't get rid of. So did you have a
Right.
certain song going through or a whole radio station?
Well, it was just a couple of songs, but one of them, because we had to swear when we were bringing in people who were going to check the ballots and stuff, they all had to be sworn in. So it was, I swear, like the moon and the stars in the sky. Yeah, and you get that song, and it's just got all of those octave jumps and stuff. So that was in my head all day, but it could have been worse.
It could have been much worse. There are studies on not only the earworm, but there's some new information about how to get rid of one. So, like Derek will say to me, oh, I've got this song stuck in my head, and he'll ask Alexa to play it, and then he'll say it's over.
Oh.
But one of the problems or one of the ways you get an earworm is by listening to a song several times. So that doesn't work for everybody. But the science says that the more you hear a song, the more likely it is to become an earworm. So that's why it's mostly pop music, because pop songs are played the most often. And I suppose upbeat contemporary country would fit in that as well, if that's what you listen to. So upbeat, simple, short, and repetitive sticks in your head, and it's usually something with lyrics.
Yeah, like ra ra mama papa or whatever the hell it is. What is that song? Lady Gaga. What?
Lady Gaga, Bad Romance.
Or Bad Polka. It could be papa, my bad polka. Yeah, okay.
It's the same thing. So one of the ways that they say to get rid of a song that's stuck in your head is to think of another song or listen to another song, because you can't have two in your head at the same time. Isn't that neat? Because in order to listen to one song, you have to use the resources in your brain that you would need to listen to another song, but they're busy. And the other one is to listen to something slow or boring. I have some ideas for you.
Okay, so say we have this earworm. We're going to get rickrolled. Here we go.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
Oh, that's a common one.
Oh, yeah, okay, it's there now. Help me, Lisa. Help me, Dr. Lisa. Get it out of my head. Oh, no, that was Help Me, Rhonda. Oh, geez.
Oftentimes I get a Partridge Family song stuck in my head.
Oh,
so, you
no.
know. So here's one. What do you think of this? You Fill Up My Senses by John Denver.
Oh, like a night in a forest.
That wouldn't get stuck in your head.
No, but you mentioned Partridge Family.
Yep.
I was reading one of David Cassidy's old bios, and I think that you downloaded the same one on BookBub for like $1.99.
I did. I read it too. Yeah.
All I heard while I was reading it was, "What think I love you?" Oh, no. Could you hear the song all the time you were reading his story, Lisa?
Totally, but I hear the whole range of them. I hear Point Me in the Direction of Albuquerque. I hear the whole thing.
Oh, geez.
Brian Fisher, who people might remember from 680 News, made me a CD of all Partridge Family songs. He's the sweetest guy.
Oh, that's cruel.
Yeah, no. No, I wanted them.
He should have been canned like the guy from The Mix. No. Well, that's worse than faking jury duty.
Another song that might get rid of an earworm is Taxi by Harry Chapin. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the song, but it's got nothing hooky in it. It's like talking over slow music.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not even a song that you can really think of a melody. We all know it. But what about God Save the King? I hear that's a good one.
Oh, my goodness.
God save our gracious Queen, our noble King. Or, you can put whatever monarch you want in there. I heard that's a good one. Have you read that anywhere?
Yes, and I can imagine
Okay.
it because, again, it's not very sticky, as they say.
No, and it's sure not sexy. Boy, that's how you kill a libido, eh? Woo, Charlie. Anyway. Lisa, that's all great advice and good information because we all get these songs, right? And I'm so sorry you're on a medication that gives you these earworms, these songs that never end. They just go on and on, my friend.
It's like having a radio station in your head.
Yeah.
But somebody else is in charge of the station. So it's okay. I get used to it.
Oh, kind of all the years we were in radio. Do you think we played the songs we wanted?
That's
no.
right. No.
Seasons in the Sun would never, ever hear the airwaves again.
CanCon.
But anyway. Yeah. But do you have anything that could possibly get rid of this? No, just throw me to the sharks.
You know, I never had a kid that I needed to play that for, and I still know it, and I still I still hate it.
Oh my gosh, you wrote such a good blog this past week. And while we're talking about music, thank goodness we were raised on Bugs Bunny and learned about the Barber of Seville because of the Bunny of Seville and Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries and Kill the Wabbit. You know, so many of us, our introduction to anything classical or operatic was thanks to Bugs Bunny, and you seem to long for those days.
Well, a little bit, because we had just finished watching Adolescence that you recommended.
On Netflix.
It's just such an incredible show. Yeah, on Netflix. And it's such an incredible show, and it doesn't preach to you, but it's so intelligent and it's so well shot, single camera shot for every episode. It's an amazing show. We had just finished watching that, and I happened upon an article about the Wile E. Coyote movie that's coming out, and it's called Wile versus Acme.
Oh.
And Wile is going to sue Acme. Well, apparently this movie was made years ago, but it got shelved, and then somebody didn't want to sell it, and then there were new executives, and they were going to take a write-off, and it stars Will Forte, who I adore.
Oh,
and
sure.
So Wile apparently sues Acme for its inferior products because he could never get one up on the Roadrunner.
So is this going to be a live animation mix?
Yes.
Like Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Exactly. That's exactly
good.
what it is. So it'll be interesting if, Wile speaks, because we've never heard him speak. We've only heard the Roadrunner go meep, meep, and that's about it. So that's what got me on the whole Bugs Bunny thing. But, I always thought that I was the only person who was introduced to classical music by Bugs Bunny. It's funny when you're a kid and it's like, this is a different world. This music isn't in our house. Then you find out everyone my age was. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the movie's supposed to come out sometime next year.
Okay.
It just got me kind of excited about it and longing for that violence that was just so goofy. I mean, Elmer Fudd shot Bugs, but we never ever thought about taking a gun and shooting a bunny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Daffy Duck with the beak going around and around and around and around.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. Anyway, so that's what got me writing about that and just thinking about violence when we were kids, how things were so different, and bullying and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we try to indoctrinate, if you will, our grandkids into watching Bugs Bunny. And they enjoyed old Walt Disney cartoons like Goofy playing basketball and that sort of stuff. But the Bugs Bunny stuff just didn't stick. And I don't know, I think Bugs Bunny and that kind of humor sort of formed who we are with our sarcasm and our, there were so many layers of humor in there, and it wasn't slapstick stooges poking your eyes out and stuff. It was clever and funny, and we learned that dragons is so stupid, and they said stuff like, shutting up before I shut you up, and Colin's looking at us going, he's saying shut up. And it's like, oh, God.
Yeah, and get away from me, kid. You bother me.
Did you notice the anvil?
So is it just too slow paced for them now? There's not enough happening?
I have no idea. And of course, now their little brains are firing on every single cylinder with the intensity and excitement of the video games they play. All we have to do is go back and look at the baseball that we had early on, and it's just like, doop, 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 doop. They're running to bases. And now it's like you're watching a real game. I don't know how we compete with that, but what the point of adolescence is you have to know what your children, your adolescents in this case of the film, are being exposed to. The uber male domination of broadcasters like Andrew Tate and the old Rush Limbaugh. No kid would listen to him, but Alex Jones and these bros who are teaching children about porn and how women should be submissive and all of this. It's a whole other world. And as grandparents, it scares us too.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a matter of control. I think the only way that we compete with it is with rules and don't get the phone. And look, mommy and daddy or grandma and grandpa are going to put their phone in a bowl too while you're here or whatever. And it's a tough one. But adolescence, if you're up for it, it's how many episodes was it, Erin?
4. And it's not gory.
No,
it's the story of what happens to one boy and his parents' reaction and what it does to his family, and of course to another family entirely. But it's so worth watching. I'm glad you liked it. I love when we recommend things and people like them, like when you write to us about Sierra Sil or you leave us a voicemail, which is so easy to do. Go to gracefullyandfrankly.com. And that's where you leave the voicemail. Easy peasy.
Little microphone in the lower right. Just click it. Don't forget to tell us who you are when you send it. And that's it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, what a week and what a month ahead. It's May. Mother's Day is next Sunday, and we may or may not pay any attention to that whatsoever. But yeah, and the unofficial start of summer. So I hope that Port Stanley isn't inundated with tourists after your big glowing review for it last week, Lisa, but you should be part of their tourism.
I hope they are, because some of the merchants just barely cling on over the winter. And when they get busy, we get happy, and we never get upset about the crowds. It's funny, people complain about paying for parking here and there because that money goes directly to clean the beach. And we're like, well, funny little thing. It also was a little bit of a design to deter some tourists. It's like, if you want to go for free, go to Port Bruce. They don't have as nice a beach, but we'll see you. So
interesting. What about getting on town council there or something? I mean, we're all civic-minded now. We're doing our duty. What you going to do about it?
I would rather poke out my eye with a knitting needle. And speaking of my eye, I'm having surgery on my eyes, but we'll talk about that next week.
Oh, geez, yeah, drop that on me. Well, is your mouth okay? Is your brain okay? Because I have had neither a throat nor a brain the last 2 episodes, so I'm counting on you, Lisa.
I had a mammogram this morning, and I feel like I've been pawed by a bear. So, this is just life right now in the early 60s.
Yeah, and I've got an ultrasound in the nether regions this week, too. So, yay, let's post pictures. Okay. Oh, God, we're lucky to be taken care of.
That's right. Talk to you next week, my friend.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening so much. Tell your friends about Gracefully and Frankly, because we love them, too, and we haven't even met them. What? Bye.